Snow White makes me feel a little sick, almost as if the original magic of the tale has been tainted beyond repair. I agree with the BBC. The film suffers from a major identity crisis. Instead of a clear, timeless character, we get someone who seems to flip between two extremes. When she's around bandits, she transforms into a hardened, unyielding figure. But near the dwarfs or in the town, she reverts to a sweet, innocent archetype. And then when you throw in Rachel Zegler's performance, a performance that neither fits the classic archetype nor tries to boldly reinvent it, it all collapses into contradiction. There's a pervasive sense that modern Hollywood has tried too hard to update an old story by overcomplicating its messaging and cutting away the deep, sometimes brutal truths that made the original so enduring. The film seems to have lost its way by attempting to recast timeless lessons in a veneer of progressive messaging. In the original story, Snow White's role was simply defined. She worked hard, offered to cook and clean in exchange for sanctuary, and ultimately had her true love's kiss awaken her. Here, however, the narrative is twisted into a confusing call for self-empowerment that eschews the very idea of sacrifice and service. Instead of portraying a character who quietly endures for love, the new version has her aggressively claiming agency almost to the point of narcissism. It's as if the message is, I'm powerful because I demand perfection from those around me, which contradicts what made the original story resonate with generations. Every scene is riddled with inconsistencies that strip away any emotional depth. There's this bizarre insistence on portraying Snow White as both the submissive princess in need of rescue and as a bold revolutionary determined to take control. The film swings wildly between old-fashioned values where a prince's heroic act is the crowning moment of romance and modern cynicism, where every act of service is met with disdain and suspicion. This jarring mix leaves audiences not just confused but alienated, as if the very essence of what makes a fairy tale uplifting has been sacrificed on the altar of modern social commentary. The result is a narrative that feels empty, contrived, and ultimately unsatisfying, a far cry from the genuine storytelling that made the original so beloved. What truly grates is the underlying message that modern Hollywood seems to be pushing, one that suggests if you simply speak your truth and demand that the world manifest your dreams, then any effort becomes unnecessary. It's a crude, oversimplified mantra that undermines the value of hard work, persistence, and even the passage of time. The film appears to replace the authentic, rags to riches journey of Snow White with a watered-down, almost Marxist parable, give up everything, and suddenly abundance will magically appear. Yet, as anyone familiar with human nature knows, success isn't handed out based solely on declarations or empty platitudes. This approach not only sanitizes the inherent struggle of the original tale, but also leaves the film with an eerie, hollow aftertaste where nothing is truly earned. At its core, Snow White was about more than just a love story. It was a cautionary tale about the passage of time, the inevitability of change, and the bitter truth of jealousy and loss. By stripping these elements away and replacing them with modern cliches, the film ends up with a narrative that feels both bland and self-serving. It's as if the filmmakers believed that modern audiences would be more impressed by a bombardment of political slogans than by an honest retelling of hardship and triumph. Instead, we're left with a protagonist who seems more interested in asserting her own superiority than in engaging with the world around her. The result is a movie that not only fails to deliver a compelling story, but also undermines the deep, emotional legacy of the original fairy tale. What's needed now is a return to authenticity, a rejection of the overly politicized, hollow narrative that modern remakes often provide. Great stories resonate because they capture life's contradictions with honesty, not because they force a message that feels contrived or patronizing. Snow White, in its true form, taught lessons about sacrifice, resilience, and the bittersweet nature of growing up. It wasn't about giving up every bit of personal value for a fleeting trend. If studios want to reimagine these classics without losing what made them timeless, they must respect the original's emotional core rather than simply layering on modern ideologies. The failure of this adaptation is a warning that in rewriting history for today's audience, no amount of glitter or updated messaging can replace the raw truths that first made these stories endure. In the end, the modern retelling of Snow White has left many of us disillusioned, a symbol of creative misfires where the balance between tradition and innovation was never achieved. It's not just that the movie is poorly executed, it's that it has lost the heart of the timeless tale, replacing it with a shallow, conflicting narrative that leaves viewers cold. If nothing is earned and every moment is dictated by a contrived modern agenda, then the film lacks soul. I can't help but compare it to a shattered mirror reflecting the messy, unforgiving truths of modern society, a society that values slogans over substance and spectacle over integrity. So what do you think? Is this adaptation a catastrophic failure of storytelling, or is it simply a misguided attempt at modernizing a classic? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like the video if you agree with these sentiments, subscribe for more updates, and let's discuss how we can bring back the authenticity that's been lost in the process of reinventing timeless tales.